tonight's news edition. His Majesty orders a new public hospital to be built in Madaba during a tour of the governorate. Presenting his government policy statement to Parliament, the Prime Minister says a full agenda is in place to address internal and external challenges and advance reform. Airstrikes target a children's hospital in Aleppo, and the Syrian president says U.S. President-elect Donald Trump can be a natural ally. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. During a tour of Madaba, His Majesty the King instructed that a new government hospital be built to serve the governorate south of Amman. He told local officials and community leaders that he will lay the foundation stone on the health facility in 2017 to replace the old Nadim Hospital. King Abdullah also said an industrial estate project will find jobs for the local people, stressing speedy action to attract investment in the region. We will see the first factory in the industrial city by the end of 2017, the King declared. He spoke about economic difficulties facing the country and Madaba in particular, foremost of which are poverty and unemployment. The King noted an agreement with a factory in the Deban district to find hundreds of new job opportunities and also referred to planned government agricultural ventures, including an animal fodder project. He called for formation of a task force to follow up on implementations of these projects. Commenting on the new U.S. administration, King Abdullah said he is optimistic about the future of Jordanian-U.S. relations. He also said an upcoming Arab summit, due to be held in Jordan in late March, is an opportunity for positive action to serve the Arab and Muslim nation in light of the regional challenges. Senate President Faisal Al-Fayez said the King had instructed royal court officials to carry out royal initiatives to serve the various sectors in Madaba. These included building 25 homes for underprivileged families and rehabilitating parks. Their Majesties King Abdullah and Queen Rania will start an official visit to Australia on November 23rd at the invitation of the Governor-General of Australia, Peter Cosgrove. The King will hold meetings in Canberra and Sydney with the Governor-General of Australia, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, and other officials and parliamentary leaders. King Abdullah will also pay an official visit to New Zealand on November 28th for talks with Governor-General Patsy Reddy, Prime Minister John Key, and other officials and parliamentary leaders. The talks in Australia and New Zealand will focus on ways and means to forge closer ties with the two countries in economic, trade and investment fields, as well as the regional and international developments. The lower house endorsed its reply to the speech from the throne, which His Majesty the King delivered at the opening of Parliament's ordinary session. The House and Senate will submit their replies on Sunday. Lawmakers will also begin debating the government's policy statement, which Prime Minister Hanin Mulqi delivered at today's session, seeking a vote of confidence in his administration. He said the government had a comprehensive program to address internal and external challenges and enhance security and stability, democracy, political reform, and economic development. He vowed to fight corruption and said justice, integrity, and transparency will be the main features of the government's approach. The higher national interest, he said, is at the core of the government's program and decisions, reiterating a pledge to work in partnership with the House to achieve the King's vision and serve the country. The next stage is one of work and achievement, he told the lawmakers, adding that the royal discussion papers will adopt to push forward comprehensive reforms. Mulqi said an upcoming Arab summit, which Jordan will host in late March, will help rejuvenate joint Arab action. He said Jordan, as the closest country to the Palestinians, had always stood in support of their cause, pledging the kingdom will continue to resist Israeli violations against Islamic and Christian holy sites in occupied East Jerusalem. On terrorism, the Prime Minister said his government will continue to strengthen the country's security and stability and counter terrorism and extremism in Iraq, Yemen, Libya, and other countries. He said Jordan will also work towards a political solution to the Syrian crisis. The Prime Minister pledged full support to security forces to deal with challenges posed to the country. Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Nasser Jude and Romanian Foreign Minister Lazar Comenescu discussed relations and regional issues. The two ministers talked about the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories and efforts to revive Palestinian-Israeli peace talks. They also discussed economic ties and investment prospects in Jordan and agreed to increase trade relations. Airstrikes pounded neighborhoods around a children's hospital and a blood bank in rebel-held eastern Aleppo. The second day of renewed aerial bombing has killed at least 32 people. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the airstrikes on eastern Aleppo alone killed at least 21 people, including 5 children and an emergency worker. It said they were carried out by either Russian or Syrian warplanes. Air raids also continued in the countryside west of Aleppo, from which rebels have launched assaults on government-held areas. The observatory said an attack on the village of Batbo killed at least 19 people, including 3 children. Moscow has denied reports that its jets have hit Aleppo in the renewed wave of bombardment and said it was sticking to a moratorium on airstrikes in the city. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said he will have to wait and see if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump will change Washington's policy on Syria. He said he is ready to cooperate with Washington if it ended its policy of supporting rebels seeking to overthrow his government. Assad said the Republican leader had made promising comments on the need to battle Daesh terrorists in Syria's war. However, he said he did not have a lot of expectations.
That's why for us it's still dubious whether he can do or live up to his promises or not. That's why we are very cautious in judging him, especially as he wasn't in a political position before. So we cannot tell anything about what he's going to do. But if, let's say if he's going to fight the terrorists, of course we're going to be ally, natural ally in that regard, with the Russians, with the Iranians, with many other countries who wanted to defeat the terrorists.
Kurdish Peshmerga forces will not retreat from areas retaken from Daesh terrorists in Iraq. Kurdistan President Masoud Barzani said Peshmerga fighters are taking part in the war on Daesh, backing the Iraqi government forces and the U.S.-led coalition. An Iraqi Shiite parliamentary group said it is about to storm the Tal Afar airbase west of Mosul. Capturing Tal Afar would help cut Daesh's supply lines between Mosul and the territory under control of the hardline group in Syria. Meanwhile, hundreds of Iraqis who recently returned to Hammam al-Alil, southeast of Mosul, after its recapture from Daesh, received aid and food packages. Daesh is said to have transported 1,600 abducted civilians from Hammam al-Alil to Tal Afar before its recapture, possibly for use as human shields against airstrikes. Israel's parliament gave preliminary approval to a controversial bill that would retroactively legalize Jewish settlement outposts built on Palestinian land in the occupied West Bank. The United States has described the measure promoted by far-right members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition as troubling. Washington said the proposal could pave the way for the legislation of dozens of settler outposts built deep in the West Bank without Israeli government authorization. Outposts usually start with prefabricated huts on remote hilltops and lived in by a handful of settlers. Over time, they acquire Israeli military protection and hook up to water and electricity networks. The far-right Jewish Home Party and member of Netanyahu's Likud faction have pushed for the law to try to circumvent a Supreme Court order to destroy the settlement outpost of Amona. Palestinians denounced the proposed law as another blow to their goal of establishing their state with East Jerusalem as its capital.
We consider all settlements illegal, whether they are on public land or private land. But now it extends the confiscation of territory to private Palestinian land where settlers and the illegal Israeli occupation can steal outright theft Palestinian land, whether for public Palestinian use or private Palestinian property, in order to expand its settlement project, destroy the two-state solution, and at the same time impose Greater Israel on historical Palestine.
Her Majesty Queen Rania joined a panel discussion on education development in Amman. She called for a long-term social movement to guide education reform. The Queen stated there is a general understanding that education is imperative for national progress because we always say the human being is our most valued possession. At the session moderated by the founder of Awa'il.net, Queen Rania said we need a social movement for education, aided by activists and experts who are willing to make the discussion about education a long-term priority. The Queen explained the outcomes of education are embodied in the strong personalities and characters shaped by a committed national process that has academic and non-academic components. Queen Rania stressed talent is the most valuable commodity in today's world and what will help us advance. The Queen said that effective teaching techniques can be developed even within countries strained by limited resources. The Queen thanked the panelists and audience and described them as partners in a vital course that will deliver an educational process Jordanian children deserve. U.S. President Barack Obama sought to reassure NATO allies that Republican President-elect Donald Trump will maintain core U.S. strategic interests around the world. He said he is confident the commitment of the United States to the alliance would continue. Obama was addressing an audience of Greek citizens, politicians, and students in Athens on his last trip overseas before being succeeded by Trump in January.
Today's NATO, the world's greatest alliance, is as strong and as ready as it's ever been. And I am confident that just as America's commitment to the transatlantic alliance has endured for 7 decades, whether it's been under a Democratic or Republican administration, that commitment will continue, including our pledge and our treaty obligation to defend every ally.
In his farewell speech to Europe, Obama praised the strength of democracy from its Greek birthplace and prodded his Republican successor Trump to follow suit. He said democracy is why the United States welcomes people of all races, religions, and backgrounds.
Our democracies show that we're stronger than terrorists and fundamentalists and absolutists who can't tolerate difference, can't tolerate ideas that vary from their own, who try to change people's way of life through violence and would make us betray or shrink from our values. Democracy is stronger than organizations like ISIL.
Novak Djokovic rediscovered his warrior spirit to tame Canada's Milos Raonic 7-6, 7-6 in a riveting duel and guarantee progress from his group at the ATP World Tour Finals. The 29-year-old Serb's recent setbacks has cost him the world #1 ranking he held for 122 weeks, but when backed in a corner by an inspired Raonic, he responded in the belligerent manner that has earned him 12 Grand Slam titles. World #4 Raonic gave it his best shot in the over 2-hour match, but Djokovic, bidding for a 5th consecutive title at the year, made it impossible for him to win.
Game, set match, Djokovic. 2 sets to love. 7-6, 7-6.
A Lionel Messi masterclass netting a brilliant free kick before laying on 2 more goals put Argentina's World Cup qualifying campaign back on track with a resounding 3-0 win over Colombia. But Messi opened a post-game news conference with the entire team standing behind him, declaring a press boycott. The boycott is in response of teammate Ezequiel Lavezzi, who was accused in the media of using marijuana at Argentina's training camp, a claim Lavezzi has denied.
Estamos acá para comunicarle que hemos tomado la decisión de no hablar más con la prensa. Obviamente.
And finally, it will remain relatively cold across many parts of the country tonight with moderate winds. Tomorrow, temperatures will further drop to be 2 to 3 degrees below their seasonal average for this time of year. Scattered showers are in the forecast, especially in the kingdom's north. Winds will be westerly moderate, lifting dust in the desert areas. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a warm day tomorrow with northerly winds and choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. His Majesty orders a new public hospital to be built in Madaba during a tour of the governorate. Presenting his government policy statement to Parliament, the Prime Minister says a full agenda is in place to address internal and external challenges and advance reform. Airstrikes target a children's hospital in Aleppo, and the Syrian president says U.S. President-elect Donald Trump can be a natural ally. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.